I'm sure I've waxed before on the subject of video game genre names being kinda bullshit. Simulation, adventure, these could apply to literally any video game if you think about it. And now that I am thinking about it, let's add strategy to that list. Surely when you're chucking a grenade to flush soldiers out of cover in Half-Life, or even in Pac-Man when you choose to take a path that leads to less ghosts over a path that leads to more ghosts, you are applying strategy, strictly speaking, and we don't call these strategy games. Nothing for it, you are just gonna have to bin all the genre names and replace them with game where a thing happens, you press a button in response, and you win if you press the right button enough times. I jest, of course. Obviously I know what a strategy game is, because I know it's something I don't like. It's shit like StarCraft, Command & Conquer, Halo Wars, pre-World of Warcraft. As I've said previously, I just can't gel with that kind of thing. If I try to play it, my brain goes somewhere else, like an out-of-focus magic eye picture, and trying to force myself to engage just exhausts me within minutes. I'm sure all of you have much the same experience trying to play the genres you don't click with, but considering the point that all video games ultimately boil down to pressing the right buttons in response to stimuli, I wonder what it is about this specific kind of pressing buttons that doesn't set off my happiness glands. Maybe what it is that I'm a big glory hog. Maybe I only want to play games where I'm the one lone dude tackling all the problems by myself and being the center of the narrative and getting lauded by all the helpless NPC babes. I mean, we already know I can't stand playing multiplayer games. Some jack-off stealing my kill in something like Helldivers makes me emotionally flash back to my brother running up and blowing out my birthday candles. You'd think he'd have stopped doing that when we got into our 30s. And in the above list of strategy games, you're in the position of a bodiless, hovering entity overseeing a bunch of dudes who have to split the glory of victory between them. Maybe I want to be in the thick of the action. Maybe I don't like delegating. Maybe that's also why I feel the need to wash up other people's plates when I find them in the sink. Well, that's a starting theory, but immediately debunked by a three-letter word preceded by a letter from the arse end of the alphabet. XCOM. XCOM is a game where you play a bodiless entity overseeing the battlefield, micromanaging the actions of multiple soldiers, and I love XCOM. My brain certainly isn't drifting off while I'm playing that. It's usually in paroxysms of rage, because my best sniper somehow missed a 90% hit chance. Of course, XCOM pairs its strategic combat with a base management element, but this isn't like the Persona thing, where the intersection between two gameplay styles I can at least tolerate creates something greater than the sum of its parts, because I don't really like management games either. I load up something like Cities Skylines or Crusader Kings 3, and proceed to stare blankly at the interface like a cat sitting at the controls of a Boeing 747. So, why does my brain chemistry engage with XCOM combat in a way that it does not with other quote-unquote strategy games? Well, no mystery here, Yahtzee. Surely it's because XCOM is turn-based, and what you really don't like is real-time strategy. Quite understandably. I mean, always being under pressure to act and potentially failing because you didn't draw a selection box around the right dudes fast enough probably stresses out a lot of people. Whereas in turn-based, you've got all the time in the world to assess the situation and figure out the most optimal move. Thank you for agreeing with me myself, but there's got to be more to it than that, because I've tried other strategic turn-based games and found I couldn't get into them at all. Fire Emblem, Civilization. I tried that Tactical Breach Wizards game that Tom Francis just put out, which in theory should have been 100% my jam. XCOM-style turn-based combat scenarios infused with magical realism and a Terry Pratchett-esque sense of humour. But in practice, my jam just didn't spread. If you were to twist my arm, I suppose I'd say that the thing I love about XCOM is its constant sense of discovery and exploring the unknown, which happens on both the macro level as the story progresses and different alien creatures and technology is gradually introduced, and on a moment-to-moment basis as you progress through initially fully darkened missions filling out the map. And all the turn-based tactical games I've bounced off have started by giving me a full view of the battlefield, which makes me feel like I'm playing chess, having to think in the long term, multiple moves ahead. And guess what? I've never liked playing chess either. I wonder why we can't clear out the pawns and give the queen a submachine gun. Tuck that in the back of your minds for now. It strikes me as odd that strategy games being in real time should be what kills their appeal for me. Making real-time decisions on a battlefield from afar shouldn't be any more stressful than having to make real-time decisions in a firefight in a first-person shooter. Maybe it's just the combination of everything. The stress of real-time decision-making combined with my distaste for delegating tasks. I mean, I'm not going to waste time telling someone else to do the washing up if I'm the one currently annoyed at how untidy the kitchen is, but I have one last nagging thought, viewer, and it's called Lemmings, the classic Amiga puzzle strategy game in which you direct a platoon of tiny adorable creatures with very little self-preservation instinct to an exit by assigning specific tasks to individual ones. Still an almost completely unique core gameplay mechanic that I'm surprised we don't see more imitations of. Humanity would be the closest thing to it that's come out in recent years, and that's about it. The point is, it's a game I rather like and have a lot of nostalgia for, but what is it if not a real-time game in which you play a distant overseer micromanaging individual units? What makes me engage with this and not Warcraft 2? It can't just be because you can make your entire team explosively detonate at will. Well, maybe. That'd liven up a game of Civilization. It's not a winning strategy, but it might rattle someone. Maybe it's just because Lemmings is side-on 2D rather than top-down. At the end of the day, your Lemming charges are only ever moving along a single dimension, and that's got to be easier to get your head around. In fact, I think I figured out how this all boils down, the grand unifying theory. The fact is, to quote Freddie Mercury, I'm a boy with a one-track mind, so much to do in one lifetime. I'm the kind of person who lives in the moment. The common thread that connects Half-Life, XCOM, and Lemmings is that they're all about dealing with problems one at a time, whether that's grenading a dude or infiltrating a room or digging through the next wall. My brain likes to solve the problem it's got and then move on to the next. I don't have a head for the big picture. I'm not comfortable with multitasking. That's why I can't get on with RTS. If I see enemies encroaching from the north, my instinct is to immediately focus on nothing but repelling them, even if I'm subsequently attacked from 3 other sides. When I try to play Cities Skylines, I see the little prompt saying, your town needs residential space, so I zone some green areas. Then it goes, now we need more industrial space, so I zone some orange bits, and I don't feel like I'm building a city. I feel like I'm painting by numbers. I'm not saying I'm incapable of big picture thinking, I just don't want to do it for fun. That just seems to be the way my brain's wired. Perhaps this calls for further research. Everyone has genres of gameplay they just can't get into, and I think if you can find the precise spot where that line is, where fun gives way to chore, much like I've done with Lemmings, you'd have more than a gaming preference, you'd have a concise breakdown of your personality profile. Think of the applications! I'm wondering if there's mileage in setting up an online dating site where people are matched based on what their favourite games are. Never again would society suffer the consequences of an EVE Online family attempting to blend with a Bubble Bobble household.